Wait, you have to share your whole like desktop instead of just.
No, no, it's okay.
No, but then when you're actually doing the
I know, I'll change it. Yeah.
Maybe you should go to Cornell Health if you're feeling sick.
Oh, maybe it's time to not teach. Okay, wait. Walker, if you're watching this, that was a joke. Now today we're gonna talk about Intro to Android Development, Demo 4. So this one, last time we talked about RecyclerViews and lazy lists. And so today we're gonna talk a bit more, recap a bit about RecyclerViews, and then we're gonna go through the process of implementing one because they're pretty tricky. Yeah. So announcements. Homework 4 is out. Or it will be out tonight. Emily will make sure that it's out.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also come to office hours if you need help. People have been showing up to office hours. Don't feel bad. I saw Nicole at mine, and then Emily saw Nicole at hers. So Nicole went twice in 2 days. So it's okay for the rest of you guys to come too. Okay. So before we talk about how to implement a RecyclerView, let's talk a bit about what RecyclerViews look like. So for example, okay, none of them have seen this slide before, except maybe that guy. But for example, this is a RecyclerView, and this would be one post, and then we have another post, and then we have like more posts down below. And so RecyclerView basically just helps us list a bunch of items in a row. So for example, on this one, we would have this playlist, this playlist, this playlist, and then so on, and then you can scroll down, right? And then here we have like Venmo transactions, and we can scroll and find a list of them. So yeah, these are just some examples of RecyclerViews or what RecyclerViews can implement. Okay. So yeah, what is a RecyclerView? It's very similar to a list view, which we didn't go over. We went over in lecture, but we're not going to go over in demo because we're not going to demo it. But basically we want to represent a list, and one cell is one piece of data is our idea. So only the cells that are visible to users are created at runtime during a RecyclerView, and the hidden cells are rendered as you scroll. And the new views are not being created. It's more like you're recycling the same views, but you're putting new data on it each time to show the new like item that you want to display. So like views are dirty at the top when you can't see them anymore, and then they get moved down to the bottom, and in the middle they're like more new data is transported into this view, and then it gets moved to the bottom so that you have fresh data that's pulling up as you're scrolling down the list. And this is very efficient because that means that we don't have to create a view for every single item in our list, which could be very long. So because we're recycling the same views but binding different content, it makes it a lot more efficient for longer lists. Although list views can be used for static lists, and that's what they're usually better for. Okay, so we mentioned that one cell is one piece of data. So what does a data look like? A data is usually created in like a data class. So for example, this is a data class that represents a Facebook post where you have a username, comments, profile picture, date posted, reactions, and private, right? Like whether or not it's a private post. And so basically, this is how we make, this is like the entirety of one data class file in Kotlin. And we'll see this later in the demo. And basically you just have, you declare some variables with their names and then with their type. And yeah, you can also put in default values if you want, but they're not necessary. Okay. And then we're going to talk about the layout. So Emily, what does this slide mean?
Okay, so that is one cell within volume. It's like just like a list of articles. So that's just like the XML that correlates to that singular cell.
Yeah, well done. Well done.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So this is just one cell, and then obviously you have more than just the creme de Cornell inside a volume. So each publication would have its own cell, and we can scroll through these. And then each RecyclerView needs a layout manager defined as well. So this tells the RecyclerView how to render the items. So for example, some different ways that we could render these items are in a vertical list. This item, this image is wrong. Grid view, staggered view, which looks kind of cool, and mixed view, which is kind of ugly. But yeah, you can design this based on your choice, and this just gives it a lot more flexibility and variability compared to a list view, which has to be vertical. Yeah. So another thing that each recycler view needs is an adapter. So a recycler view requests views and binds the views to the data by calling methods in the adapter. And so when you define an adapter, you want to do it by extending RecyclerView.adapter. And this is pretty tricky. So there's just some set syntax for it, and you'll see it during the demo. And we need to create a custom adapter for every recycler view because we want to know how to adapt our pieces of data to views. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay, good. A recycler view also needs a ViewHolder class. So the recycler view will create as many view holders as needed to fill up the visible space. And then when created, they don't have data associated, but then after creation, the recycler view can bind it to its data. Yeah, and we define view holders by extending RecyclerView.ViewHolder. So other important functions in adapter are like the important functions in your adapter, which is going to be the main part of your recycler view, are onBind ViewHolder, which is called to associate a ViewHolder with the data. So basically just like binding the data to the ViewHolder to fill out the data cell, or like the ViewHolder cell with the data. This fetches the data and uses the data to fill in the ViewHolder's layout. And then on create ViewHolder, the recycler view calls this method to create a new ViewHolder. The method creates and initializes the ViewHolder and its associated views, but it doesn't have any content when you create the ViewHolder. And this is only used at the start, right? Because we're not creating any more view holders after the start. We're just recycling them using onBind ViewHolder. And then the third one is get item count. So the recycler view calls this method to get the size of the data set. And this is how they determine whether there are no more items that can be displayed. So normally you want to set this just to like the size of the data set, but in some specific scenarios, you might want to make it like smaller so that you don't display the end of the data set. But usually you just want to use dataset.size. And I think that's all we'll do for our demo and homework. So yeah, this is an example of, this is an example of a adapter as created in, what is this? This looks like listing books with their authors and publishers. And so we can see that we have inside of our custom adapter, we have a ViewHolder class. And then we have a function for onCreate ViewHolder, one for onBind ViewHolder, and one for get item count. And you can see that the get item count one is really small. And we just set it to dataset.size. Okay. Another thing that we didn't go over last time that we're going to go over now because it's useful for your homework is sometimes we'll have to notify recycler views when the data set changes, right? Because the way that we change how the item or like what items and what data is being displayed is by changing the values inside of the data set. But then the recycler view will not change unless you notify it. So there are two separate ways that we can do this. We can call this method on our adapter. We can call notify data set changed, and this will reload the entire data set if something has changed. But this should only be done sparingly because it's very expensive to reload your entire data set, right? Especially when you have like a bunch of items. And so the second option is to use notify item changed. And this takes in an integer, which denotes your position. And then you call this method with your adapter to reload the item at position P in your recycler view. And this is a lot more efficient in a majority of scenarios. So we want to use this one. Just a note, if you do not notify your recycler view about the data set changing, it will not change the display. Recycler views are very efficient, but this is one of the trade-offs we face for our efficiency. So because we don't have to constantly be looking for updates to our data set, recycler views are very they act very quickly, and that's why you don't have a lot of loading when you're like scrolling. But a side effect is that we're not like always looking when we change our data set, and so therefore we have to tell the recycler view when we change it. Any questions about this? I think everything will be a lot more clear once we do demo. So this is our demo goal, to create a list of eateries at Cornell. Yeah. And unlike the other ones where we had you guys like put in the stuff before, I don't think we're gonna be doing that this time just because it's basically just one component, and that's the recycler view. And the recycler view is obviously something that we don't expect you guys to know how to implement yet, right? Because we didn't give you an example. Okay. So now let's go to, oh yeah, so here are the steps. Sorry, one more slide. Here are the steps to create our recycler view. So we place the recycler view in your activity file and then create a data class representing the data each of your cells should hold, which would be eateries in our case. Make a layout file that represents one cell in your recycler view. Make an adapter for your recycler view. Make a custom view model class. Create on create view model, on bind view model, and get item count. And then add your adapter, your dataset, and a layout manager to your recycler view. Okay. So now let's go over to Android Studios. Okay. Yeah, and we don't need this one. Cool. So here I actually have a fully completed example because I did it just to make sure I knew what I was doing, but now we'll do it again. So we want to create an empty activity. Do you guys all have Android Studios pulled up? Yeah, great. Okay. And I'll call it demo 4.1 because I already used demo 4. And then, yeah, minimum SDK API 21 should be fine. Okay, and then we just wait for it to build. And let me see why. Okay. Okay, screen sharing should be working as well. So now the Gradle is just building. This is just the basic thing. Yeah. Gradle sync in progress. Okay, cool. So do you guys all have the new project built? Yeah. Nicole, what about you? Yeah. Okay, good, good. That looks so unsure. Okay. So now let's go to resources, layout, activity main.xml. And we can see already on the side, one of the really common ones. Okay, so first let's delete this text because we don't need it. And then we can see that one of the really common ones already is a recycler view. So we can just put this in. Yeah, and it'll look like this. And you can notice that it already like fills up the entire screen, but we still want to constrain it to all 4 edges just because each item needs constraints in order for Android to know where to put it. And yeah. Let me call this. So I'm going to call the recycler view eateries because that's what it's going to be showing. And then we can move it up and to the left just to make it fit. Okay. And then the next step is to create a data class. So we want to go here, right click on main activity or just like anything inside of this folder, select new, and then Kotlin class/file. Do you guys have that? Yeah. Okay. And then here it'll ask you. So first the name should be eatery. And then we want to make it a data class. Okay. And then we can press enter. and it'll make data class eatery. Okay. And then let's think about what we want it to show. So here we can see that we want the name of the eatery, and then we kind of want like the location of the eatery. So we can say val name string, val location string. Does that make sense to you guys? Good? Okay, great. Okay, so now the next step is to create an XML layout file for just one cell. So we want to say new layout resource file. You guys have that? Okay. And then we want to call this eatery underscore cell. Okay. And it should be a constraint layout, and the directory name should be layout. Yeah. Okay. And then here we want to put one text view and constrain it to the top, the left, the bottom, and the right. And then we want to move it all the way to the top left, just because that's where we want it. We can put a little bit of padding or margin up here. If you like you can put 5 margin up here and then 5 here. And then we want to call this eatery name. So this one will store the name of our eatery, right? So we want to call eatery name with capital N. Okay. And then the other thing that we want to do, just to beautify it a little bit, is make the text size bigger for this. So this one should be like around 20 SP. You guys have that? Text size should be 20 SP. You guys can, like, if you go to attributes and then you scroll all the way down to text size, should be near the bottom. You can also do it in the code, I believe. If you go to Android : text size equals 20 SP. Okay. And then the other one that we want to do, we want to make another text view. And this one will constrain it to the bottom of the first text view, to the left here, to the bottom, and to the right. And then we'll also push this up to the top left. And then we want to give it padding 5, 5, 5, or margin, sorry, just to like create some space so that the text doesn't like bundle up together or like get too close. Do you guys have any questions up until now? No. Okay. And then similarly for this one, we actually want the text size probably to be like around 12 SP, just like compared to what the oh, not dictionary. Compared to like what this was, like obviously the text for the eatery name is a lot bigger than the location. So we're doing like 20 and 12. It's just like an approximation for now. Okay, let's find our Android Studios. Okay, and notice there's like a little bit of space in between them. And then there's a third thing we need to do. So we notice that if you go to the design, it looks like really big, right? Like it's like a whole screen. And so what we want to do is if we go here and we see that it says layout width is match parent and layout height is match parent, we want to change layout height to wrap content. And then if we go back to design, we can see that there's a line here, which means that it'll cut off here. And this will be like one cell. And then we could put in more cells underneath. So that's what we want, right? Good. Okay. Okay. And then our next step should be, so here we want to find our recycler view, and we can do this by using find view by ID, r.id.eateries. Okay. And then there are a couple things that we want to do with eateries. So let's go back to this. Okay. So we made a layout file that represents one cell in our recycler view, and now we want to make an adapter for our recycler view. So this is the trickier part. So now we want to click back on like new main activity with right click and create another Kotlin class / file. And this one we'll call it eatery adapter. Okay. And then the syntax for this is a little bit complicated. So I'm gonna come here and show you what it looks like. So we can see class eatery adapter, and then we want to take in eateries. Sorry, can you guys see this here? Private val eateries is a list of eateries. So we want to take this into our adapter so that we know what we want to adapt. Okay. And then we declare that our eatery adapter is of type RecyclerView.adapter. And then type in eatery adapter.ViewHolder. It'll turn red for now because we haven't defined the ViewHolder yet. But once we define it, it'll make sense. And it won't complain anymore. So yeah, let me know once you have the first line written down. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, I'll just copy paste it over. Okay, so we can see it says view holder is unresolved reference. We can create a class view holder and create it inside of here. And so basically what we want our view holder to do. Okay, so the syntax for this is also pretty complicated because we want to make it like an internal constructor and it'll construct a text view. So basically, I'd say you probably don't need to like understand the code that goes into this part. It's just like Android heavy syntax. And it's more important that like you just understand the idea behind it. So a view holder is basically just like something that it's like the cell that holds the data that is being passed into it for each like piece of data. It creates one view holder for one cell. So it's like one view holder matches up with one eatery cell.xml. Yeah. Okay. So do you guys have this line copied down? Okay. Yeah, so this is also pretty syntax heavy. I'll post this video really soon. Okay. Yeah, and this should be instead of this one. And then here inside of this, we want to say val eatery name. No, eatery name is a text view equals find view by ID. Sorry, text view should be capitalized. Find view by ID r dot wait. Sorry, equals text view dot find view by ID. Yeah, so we're passing in a view here, and we want to use this text view, which is a view that we're passing in, to call find view by ID. And so basically, this just tells us like we're giving it a text view, and then because we don't know like what context we're in yet before this, notice how like in our main activity we have like set content view r.layout.activity main. So we don't have anything like this in our adapter, which is why we need to use text view.find view by ID. And then here inside we can do r.id.eatery name. Okay. And I think I forgot to change the ID of this the ID of this text view to be eatery location, but that's what it should be. So yeah. So then we want to come here and we want to say val eatery location text view equals text view dot find view by ID r dot ID dot eatery location. Okay, and let's see why they're complaining. Okay, yeah. Okay, so now you'll notice that it's a bit red up here, right? And so basically what this is complaining about is that we have not implemented the functions of the RecyclerView.adapter class that are supposed to be implemented. So if we click implement members here, then it'll show you three things, right? And so we want to select all of them. So press command and select the other ones. And then you'll have like all three highlighted, right? You guys following? Yeah, good. Okay. And then if we press OK, then we notice that we have three things here, right? Override function for onCreate ViewHolder, onBind ViewHolder, and get item count. Okay. And we're not done with like all the complicated syntax yet because onCreate ViewHolder has some pretty complicated syntax as well. So we're just gonna go over and I'll show it to you and tell you what it does. So basically, we want to create a view by using a layout inflator and using the parent context to inflate our view. And so basically when we want to inflate, we use layout inflator.from parent context so that we know which context we're using or calling it from. And then we want to call inflate on the layout eatery cell XML file so that we know which XML file we're trying to populate. And then we call parent and we want to say attached to root is false. I don't know why, but yes. And then we want to cast this all as a view. So at the end, we say as view. And then afterwards, we want to cast it as a view holder. So we call view holder on this view. And view holder is just a constructor that we've made here. And it takes in a view and creates a view holder, right? So yeah, let me know once you've gotten this part down. But yeah, this should be the last like very syntax heavy part of the recycler view, I hope. So yeah. Are we good? Yeah, okay. So yeah. Now let's talk about onBind ViewHolder. So onBind ViewHolder gives us a view holder and a position of an integer. And so basically it tells us we have this position and we know that we want the data at this position to be put into this view holder. And they're asking us to do it in the proper way. So what we want to do is first, let's retrieve the eatery at this position from our eateries list up here. So we can say val eatery equals eateries and then index into position. Yeah. And then what we want to do is say our view holder dot eatery name, which is this text view from above here, dot text equals eatery dot name. So eatery is of the eatery data class that we created before, right? This one. And it has a name. So we want to pass in its name to the text of eatery name in our view holder, right? And then the other thing we want to do is holder.eatery location.text equals eatery.location. Does that make sense? So yeah, this is all we need to do for onBind ViewHolder because we bound both the eatery name and the eatery location to the proper things. And now let's talk about get item count. So as we saw from our example before, get item count is a pretty easy function to implement. And basically all that we want to do is return eateries.size. Any questions about the adapter? Okay, so now the adapter is done. Now let's go back here. Okay. So then here we want to say val eatery adapter, which is an eatery adapter, equals, oh, okay. So first we want to create our data set. So you want to say val eateries equals list of, and then here we can make an eatery Oaken Shields Central. So this says our name is Oaken Shields and our location is Central. And we have that eatery. And then now we want to say eatery Morrison North, eatery Beta West. So we'll just start off with 3. Sorry. This cannot be called eateries. We'll call this data set. Or we can call it, I guess we'll call it eateries data set. Okay. And then when we're making our eatery adapter, notice that when we created the adapter, we wanted to pass in a data set. So here we'll call it eatery adapter on eateries data set. Okay. And then what we want to do is, let's make this a bit more visible. Eateries, which is our recycler view dot adapter equals eatery adapter. Okay. And then we want to say, we also want to create a layout manager. So let's see if I remember. Manager equals layout manager dot, let's see. Yeah, so this part is also a little bit syntax heavy, but it should be fine. Yeah, so we want to say layout manager equals linear layout manager of this. So if we go here, it should be linear layout manager on this. So this just makes a linear layout manager for us, and you might have to import it, but that's fine. And this is just passing in the context so that they know like which activity they're using. And then we want to say eateries dot layout manager equals layout manager. Yeah. And that should be good to go for our updates. But it might not work because of API issues. So we'll see. Yeah, okay. So it's saying that my app is currently, I always get this issue. It says that my app is currently compiled against Android 32, and I should make it 33. So we can say target SDK is 33, and then compile SDK is 33. So if you're getting that error, then just change those. But yeah, should be good. Okay, build is successful, and now we can run the app again. Okay, so we can see we have Oaken Shields, Morrison, Beta, and then let's see. So colon allows trailing commas, so I can do this, and then if we just make it a couple more times, then we should be able to have enough that not all of them fit on the screen. And so then you could scroll down to get them. Yeah. And I don't know why, but it doesn't seem like the last one is showing, which is weird. But yeah. Does anyone have any questions up until this point? So this is like all the functionality is done. And then the only part that's left is they do have kind of like a highlight background type thing. So during when I walked through the demo, I was looking at this, and it is a little bit difficult, but it's not too bad. So basically what you want to do is it's about the eatery cell, right? Like each cell should have this specific background, and that's all that we need. So if we go into the drawable file and we make our own eatery cell background like this with this shape, you guys don't have to do this part, by the way, and I don't think we require this on the homework, so it's fine. So basically we want to make the color teal, and we want to make the stroke white and create like a border, and then we want to make the corners radius 10, and we want to create some padding, but it should just be 0 all around. And then if we run this one, then we should get something that looks like this. So this is what was promised and what is delivered. Yeah. And now it's 9:16. Do we have a Kahoot? No, we don't have a Kahoot. Okay. Do any of you guys have any questions about this? No? Okay. Yeah, so this is a bit complicated. We'll post the video soon. And do you guys want me to post my Android Studios project so you guys can like open it, download it, look at it? Yeah, okay, I'll do that as well. Yeah, so for the homework, I'll just talk a bit about the homework. For the homework, you want to create a Spotify playlist, and it's going to be a little bit more complicated than what we have so far, because we have like, it'll probably be around 10 items, and for each item, you want to have an image, the song name, the artist name, and the album name. And so this is already a little bit difficult, but then we also want you to be able to click on the item, and then once you click on an item, you'll be transported to another activity where you're able to like edit the name, title, name, artist, and album name. Yeah, so I think the way that we do this is if we go over to our eatery adapter, then I believe it's inside of the ViewHolder, you can make it clickable, I believe. I will get back to you on that further, although let's go see if yes, we made it clickable. Although I'll go see if we already have something about it, which we should. Okay, so the objective is a Spotify playlist, and clicking on a cell should open up a new activity called song detail activity. Yeah. Where? Oh, down here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is probably the thing that you want to be looking at. So this is the implementation with input controls. So we can create an adapter on-click handler. And then the function will give you an on-click position. And then inside of your on-bind view holder, we can also call the view holder .button.set on-click listener. Yeah. So just look at this, and if you have any questions, come to us for help. But ideally, this is like you click on it and then it'll create some intents. It'll create an intent and then set in some extras, which would be like the song name, the artist name, and the album name. And then you get transported over to song detail activity, where those things are extracted and put into text views that you can edit. So probably like edit text views. And then you want to edit those, and then at the bottom there'll be a button, and then you can press that button to like change it, and then you probably want to package this all into an intent and then send it back to the main activity, and the main activity should check to see if there's an intent, and if there's an intent with all three of these things are not null, then you want to change it for the position that they specify, which should also be part of the intent, and then notify on item changed inside of your adapter. Or call your adapter dot notify item change on item changed. So yeah. I think in theory, this homework assignment shouldn't be as bad as the one before, which had like permissions, which was a lot more complicated. But if you guys need help, feel free to come to office hours. Any questions? Okay. Great.